So you just purchased EPLAN, you've got it installed, and now you want to start using it. But somewhere you heard that you'll also need to install a database application, and now you're confused. Today I'll show you how to get EPLAN working with Microsoft Access. I'm Fred, the owner of Multiline Designs, your independent EPLAN experts. In the previous video, we installed EPLAN, but to actually use it, we'll need to set it up to work with a database. This is because EPLAN works with a few different applications, and they leave the final choice of which one to use up to you. EPLAN requires the use of a database application to manage the various databases that it uses. This includes databases for parts management, translation dictionaries, and project management. EPLAN currently recommends the use of Microsoft SQL, SQL Express, or Access. We'll discuss SQL in another video so that we can focus on Access in this video. Back in the old days, you simply installed EPLAN on a PC that already had Office installed, and you were ready to go. However, a lot has changed in the PC universe over the last 10 years. Both operating systems and applications have changed significantly, which has caused some confusion amongst EPLAN users. So let's go ahead and fix that now. For most users, the primary database that you'll interact with is EPLAN Parts Manager. The Parts Manager is a graphical interface within EPLAN that connects to an external database. Using this tool, you'll create and edit parts data for what will become your master parts database. Your database application then stores your parts data in its external database. The Parts Manager will also be used to manage external links to important reference files and documents. Typically, this will include spec sheets, images, links to external websites, and macros. These external files will be stored in your system master data folders that we created when we installed EPLAN. Each user should have a copy of this folder structure on your local PC, and for those of you who will be sharing your data with others, you'll eventually place a copy of this folder on a network file server for sharing. Don't worry about part synchronization. EPLAN has tools for that built in, which we will discuss later. So let's take a moment to look at the block diagram to get an overview of what this looks like. Initially, we install EPLAN to work as a standalone application on a single PC. In this scenario, EPLAN and the database application are installed on the local PC, as are the databases that EPLAN needs to work in a standalone environment. In addition, we can also connect the PC to a network and share a copy of our data amongst a team of users. Access is a legacy database application that has been used with EPLAN for many years. It still works fine for small teams, but I'll be honest, SQL is the better product. To use Access with EPLAN, you don't need to install a version of Office that has the Access application. You simply need to install a file called the Access Runtime for Applications. And since EPLAN is now a 64-bit application, you'll need the runtime for 64-bit applications. For those of you who are using Office 365, the cloud-based version of Office, you'll also need to install this runtime file. Now, I know that in many companies, the IT department may still have you using a 32-bit version of Office. If you download and install the 64-bit runtime file, you will also be able to use your old version of Office without issue. Okay, I've loaded my virtual machine that's running Windows 10 and EPLAN 2.8. What we want to do now is determine where we are and what we need. Now, to keep this simple, let's start by launching EPLAN and see if we can open the parts database that came with EPLAN. If it does, we'll know that EPLAN is already properly configured and we can skip the rest of this. However, if we get an error message, then we'll know that we need to install the Access Runtime drivers. So let's go ahead and launch EPLAN by clicking on the desktop icon to launch it. When EPLAN loads for the first time, you might see something like this. This is a tutorial screen that's new for version 2.8. If you don't see it, don't worry. It's part of something called your default workspace, which you can find and restore under the View menu. Let's launch the EPLAN Parts Manager, which, if you remember, is a graphical interface for external parts data. We can find it right in the main menu under Utilities, Parts, Management. If we take a moment to make note of the menu icon, we'll be able to access this directly in the future right from the desktop. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on that. If you don't have the proper files installed, you'll be greeted with this error message. It's letting you know that you can't open the current part database and you'll have to install Microsoft Office 64-bit. If you don't get this error message, you may be good to go. Now you may have also noticed that the error message has a link to a help file topic. We can simply click on the green text of this message to bring up the help file article. This article will encourage you to consider installing Access Runtime for 64-bit applications. In this tutorial, I'll show you that by installing the runtime file, you can use EPLAN without installing Office at all. But let's be realistic. Even though you can use EPLAN without Microsoft Office, I think that would be very impractical. EPLAN works much more effectively with it, as you will eventually see. So let's OK that error message and keep moving. The Parts Manager interface will load, and if you're not connected to a database, it will look like mine, very empty. Let's look at the lower left-hand corner of the dialog and make sure that we have selected the tree view. Even if you're connected to an empty parts database, you should still see text and icons in this navigator. If we look at the data tab on the right side of the dialog, it clearly says no data. While we're here, let's take a few more steps to verify that we have a database and that we're trying to connect to it. The database should have been created during the installation. At the bottom of the current dialog, there's a button called Extras. Let's click on it and look for settings. If we select that, a dialog will appear, which will bring us to the user settings for the parts database. This will indicate which database we're trying to connect to. In this case, we're trying to connect to an Access database with a file name of ESS parts 001. Now let's verify that we have this file on our PC. Select the three dots here, the ellipses icon. This should open up Windows Explorer and we should see the MDB file. And there it is. So I can confirm that we have it. Now for your benefit, let's take a moment to see where in your hard drive this file is located. Click on the Look-In folder so we can see your Explorer tree. And we'll see that it's in a subfolder named Parts that's in our System Master Data folder. Okay, we can close out of this and get back to our desktop. Let's go get those runtime files. So I'm going to go to my desktop and find a browser and open it. I'm going to type in Access Runtime. Now, as you can see, there's several different versions of this. I'm just going to download the newest version, 2016. That seems to work well with 2018, but depending on your version of Microsoft Office, you may have to install a earlier version. So if you have a version of, Office, say 2010, I would suggest you install the Access Runtime for 2007. Okay, so you may have to try a few different things. I'm going to proceed. And I'll click on the link, and here we are, Microsoft Access 2016 Runtime. So you can select a different language if you desire. So it's important here to point out that EPLAN 2.8 is a 64-bit application. So I'm going to select the file with the x64 extension. All right, it's fairly large, so I'm going to go ahead and start the download, and I'll resume the tutorial when it's complete. Okay, it appears my file has finished downloading. I'm going to go to my downloads folder and double click on the application to install it and select yes. It may take some time on my machine. I don't know, it's a VM. I'm going to accept the terms. Okay, it appears that the files have completed the installation. I've gone ahead and closed the dialogues, and I'm back in EPLAN. If you're following along, please do the same. I'll now go back to Utilities, Parts, Management to open the Parts Manager. And for those of you who are adventuresome and want to learn the quick way, there's two icons over here on the left, and one of them says Parts Management, and one is the Parts Master Data Navigator. One is basically a little interface for the Parts Manager. Using either method that you choose, go ahead and launch the Parts Manager. And when we do, you'll notice that I have quite a few more tabs here now across the right-hand side, and I have data now populating. If I go to my Tree tab, I have quite a bit of iconography in here, and this is typical of what you'll see day in, day out when you're using EPLAN. All right. We have a list view and a combination that has both a tree view and a list view. So it definitely appears to be working, and you're now officially ready to begin using EPLAN. There is some more setup that you could do with your user settings, but I'll save that for another video. Thanks for dropping by to watch this video. I hope that you found it informative. Please come back and see my next video, where I will get EPLAN up and running with SQL Express. If you're looking for some help with your next EPLAN project, please feel free to contact me here at MultilineDesigns.com, your independent EPLAN consultants.